Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where money flows like champagne, where mansions sprawl across hillsides like small kingdoms, and where being filthy rich in 1970s America means living in a way most of us can barely imagine. We're talking about private jets, yacht clubs, country estates, and a lifestyle so excessive it makes today's wealthy look almost modest by comparison. Before we dive in, I want to thank you for being here, and a special thank you to the viewer who suggested this topic. Your ideas truly shape this channel, and I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to comment, like, and subscribe. If you enjoy these deep dives into the past, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what other decades you would like to explore. Also, the channel is now live on Spotify, so if you prefer listening there, check out the link in the description. Now go ahead and get comfortable, dim the lights if you like, maybe turn on a fan for that gentle white noise, settle in because tonight we are drifting back to a time when wealth meant something entirely different. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to wake up in a mansion with more rooms than you could count? What did the super wealthy eat for breakfast when calories and budgets were never a concern? How did they spend their afternoons when work was optional and leisure was an art form? What did their country clubs smell like? What kind of conversations happened at those exclusive dinner parties where everyone wore tuxedos and diamonds just to eat roast duck? And could you survive even one day in their world where image, status, and old money ruled everything? Well, congratulations. You have just woken up in 1975. You're wealthy, not comfortable, not well off, filthy rich. Your estate has 7 bedrooms, a tennis court, and a trust fund older than most small countries. The housekeeper is already brewing your coffee, and the gardener is trimming hedges you have never personally touched. Your day is about to begin. Good luck. Let's start with the morning. You open your eyes slowly, not to an alarm clock, because alarm clocks are for people with schedules, but to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Your bedroom is enormous, larger than most apartments, and every surface gleams with a kind of cleanliness that only money and a dedicated staff can maintain. The sheets beneath you are Egyptian cotton. Thread count so high it feels like sleeping on a cloud made of silk and good intentions. Your bed is king-sized, though even that feels modest in a room this vast. The ceiling stretches above you, painted cream with ornate moulding that somebody installed decades ago, and somebody else dusts religiously every week. You have never met the person who dusts it. You probably never will. Across the room, heavy drapes frame those enormous windows, pulled back just enough to let morning light spill across the Persian rug. The rug is old, valuable, and something your grandmother selected during a trip to Tehran in the 1950s. You know this because someone told you once at a dinner party. You have never actually asked about it yourself. Your nightstand holds a crystal carafe of water, refreshed nightly by staff you rarely see. A fresh glass sits beside it, sparkling clean, turned upside down to keep dust away. There is also a telephone, cream-coloured and rotary, in case you need to call downstairs for something. Coffee, perhaps, or to inquire whether the car is ready. You stretch slowly, luxuriously, your body warm and heavy with the kind of rest that comes from having absolutely nothing urgent waiting for you. No alarm, no commute, no boss expecting you at 9 sharp. Your responsibilities are vague, inherited, manageable. The family business has people who handle the actual business. Your job is simply to exist within this life, to maintain appearances, to show up when showing up matters. The air smells faintly of furniture polish and fresh flowers. Somewhere in the house, someone has already placed a new arrangement on the hallway table. White lilies, probably, or roses. something elegant and understated and expensive. You will walk past it later without really noticing because beauty at this level becomes wallpaper. You sit up, letting the comforter fall away. The morning feels soft, unhurried, wrapped in a kind of quiet that only large houses can provide. It is not silence exactly. You can hear birds outside. Somewhere distant, a lawnmower hums. The gardener is already at work trimming hedges, edging pathways, maintaining the illusion that all of this beauty simply happens naturally. Your robe hangs on a brass hook near the bathroom door. It is silk, monogrammed with your initials, a gift from someone you cannot quite remember. Maybe your mother, maybe your spouse. It does not matter. You slip it on, tying the belt loosely, and pad across the room toward the bathroom. The floor is cool beneath your bare feet, polished hardwood that catches the light just so. The bathroom door opens silently. Inside, everything gleams. Marble countertops, gold fixtures, a tub large enough to qualify as a small swimming pool. The towels are folded precisely, white and thick and waiting. You glance at yourself in the mirror. The face staring back looks rested, pampered, vaguely bored. This is your life. This is your morning. And somewhere downstairs, breakfast is already being prepared. Breakfast is not something you grab on the way out the door. Breakfast in 1975, when you are this wealthy, is a production. You descend the grand staircase still in your silk robe, and the dining room table is already set. White linen, polished silver, fresh flowers in a crystal vase that cost more than a used car. Your footsteps echo softly on the marble stairs. The railing is mahogany, smooth under your palm, worn slightly by generations of hands gliding down to morning meals. Oil paintings line the stairwell, portraits of ancestors whose names you half remember. Men in military uniforms and women in elaborate dresses, all watching you descend with expressions that suggest they take breakfast far more seriously than you do. The dining room stretches before you like a ballroom. The table could seat 20, though this morning it is set for 1. Your place is at the head, naturally. A linen napkin, folded into some architectural shape you cannot identify, sits atop a china plate rimmed in gold. The silverware gleams. The crystal water glass catches the morning light, throwing tiny rainbows across the tablecloth. A covered silver dish waits at your place setting. You sit, and almost immediately, as if summoned by telepathy, the cook appears from the kitchen. She's older, efficient, wearing a crisp uniform. She smiles politely, the smile of someone who has perfected the art of being present without being intrusive. "Good morning," she says softly, lifting the cover to reveal your breakfast. Poached eggs, toast points, perfectly cooked bacon, crisp but not burnt, a small ramekin of hollandaise sauce, a section of grapefruit pre-cut, the edges carefully trimmed. A pot of fresh coffee steams beside your plate, accompanied by cream in a tiny silver pitcher and sugar cubes arranged in a bowl with delicate tongs. This is not a meal. This is a statement. You nod your thanks. She vanishes back into the kitchen. You're alone again with your breakfast, the silence, and the faint ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. You reach for the coffee first, pouring it slowly, watching the dark liquid swirl as you add cream. The smell is rich, intoxicating, the kind of coffee that costs more per pound than most people spend on groceries in a week. The eggs are perfect. Of course they are. The cook has been making your breakfast for years. She knows exactly how you like everything. Runny yolk, lightly salted, toast buttered to the edges. You eat slowly, methodically, because there is no reason to rush. No meeting, no office, no carpool. Through the bay windows you watch the gardener working in the distance. He is trimming the boxwoods that line the circular driveway. His movements are steady, practiced, rhythmic. He has been doing this for longer than you have been alive. The hedges are always perfect. The lawn is always immaculate. You've never once thanked him personally. You pay him, of course, generously you assume, but you've never actually spoken to him beyond a polite nod when your paths cross. The butter dish is sterling silver. The jam is homemade, probably by the cook, stored in a crystal jar with a tiny silver spoon. Even the salt and pepper shakers are ornate, passed down from your grandmother's collection. You finish your coffee and pour another cup. The grandfather clock chimes. 9 a.m. The day is already stretching ahead of you, wide and empty and full of possibilities that all feel faintly the same. Perhaps the country club later. Perhaps a phone call to arrange dinner plans. Perhaps nothing at all. The cook reappears to clear your plate. You thank her quietly. She nods, lifts the silver dish, and disappears again. You sit alone at the enormous table, nursing your second cup of coffee, staring out at a landscape you own but rarely truly see. This is breakfast. This is every breakfast. And tomorrow it will happen exactly the same way. Your home runs like a well-oiled machine, and you are not the one oiling it. There is a housekeeper, a cook, a gardener, a chauffeur, and possibly a butler, depending on how traditional your family is. These people move through your life quietly, efficiently, almost invisibly. You know their names, of course. You're not a monster, but you know their names the way you know the names of streets in your neighbourhood, familiar but not intimate. The housekeeper is Mrs. Patterson, or maybe Mrs. Morrison. Something with 3 syllables that sounds respectable. She has been with the family for 15 years. She knows where everything is. She knows your routines, your preferences, the way you like towels folded and which cleaning products make you sneeze. The cook is younger, though still older than you. She arrived 5 years ago, replacing the previous cook who retired to Florida. You remember meeting her briefly, shaking her hand in the kitchen, saying something polite about looking forward to her meals. Since then, she has prepared thousands of dishes for you, each one perfectly executed, and you've probably exchanged fewer than 100 words with her. The gardener is older, weathered, perpetually sunburned. He arrives at dawn and leaves at dusk. His truck is ancient, rusted, held together by duct tape and determination. It sits in the service area behind the garage, out of sight from the main house. You've never asked him about his life. You assume he has one. A wife, maybe, children, grandchildren. But those details exist in a parallel universe that never quite intersects with yours. Your chauffeur is the one staff member you interact with most frequently, simply because you share a confined space during drives. He is polite, formal, always in uniform. He opens doors, adjusts mirrors, comments on the weather. He knows where you go before you tell him, because your routines are predictable. The country club on Tuesdays, the charity luncheon on Thursdays, the occasional trip downtown for shopping or business. These people see everything. They see you at your worst, before coffee, before makeup, before the carefully constructed facade you present to the world. They know what you eat, what you wear, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up. They hear your phone conversations. They see your mail. They know when you've been crying, when you've been arguing, when you've been drinking too much. And yet, they remain ghosts. There is an unspoken agreement in households like yours. The staff performs their duties, you pay them well, and in exchange, they pretend not to notice your humanity. It is a dance both sides have perfected. You do not ask personal questions. They do not offer personal information. You exist in the same house, but occupy entirely different worlds. Sometimes you pass Mrs. Patterson in the hallway. She's carrying fresh linens or a vase of flowers. You nod. She nods. Good morning, you say. Good morning, she replies. And then you continue in opposite directions, the moment already forgotten. The house is always clean. The meals are always prepared. The gardens are always pristine. It all happens as if by magic, as if the house itself simply maintains its own perfection. You have never scrubbed a toilet, never mopped a floor, never weeded a garden bed. These tasks exist in a realm you're vaguely aware of but never enter. There is comfort in this arrangement, certainly. But there is also a strange isolation. You're surrounded by people, and yet you are utterly alone. They work for you, but they are not with you. They see you, but they do not know you. At night, after the staff has gone home, the house feels different, quieter, emptier. The silence is heavier, and you realise in those moments that all day long you've been performing for an audience that is paid to pretend you are not performing at all. This is the help you never see, except you do see them every day. You just do not really look. By mid-morning, you are at the country club, not because you have to be, but because that is where people like you go. The country club in the 1970s is not just a place to play tennis or golf. It is a fortress of exclusivity, a sanctuary where old money gathers to reinforce its own existence. The entrance is understated, marked only by a discreet brass plaque and a long, tree-lined driveway. Your chauffeur navigates the familiar curves, pulling up to the main building with practiced precision. A valet appears immediately, young, eager, wearing a crisp white jacket. He opens your door, offers a hand you do not take, and greets you by name. Welcome back. Inside, the air is cool, filtered, fragrant with furniture polish and old leather. The lobby is all dark wood panelling and oriental rugs, hunting prints on the walls, a chandelier overhead that looks like it belongs in a European palace. The receptionist behind the mahogany desk smiles warmly. Your usual table is ready on the terrace. Of course it is. Your usual table is always ready. You make your way through the corridor, past the library where elderly men doze behind newspapers, past the card room where women in pastel cashmere play bridge with the seriousness of generals planning warfare. The walls are lined with photographs, decades of championship winners, gala dinners, historical moments. Your family appears in several of them. Your grandfather shaking hands with someone important. Your mother at a charity ball in the 1950s. You as a child, holding a tennis trophy you do not remember winning. The terrace overlooks the golf course, 18 holes of immaculately maintained perfection. The grass is so green it looks artificial. The sand traps are pristine. In the distance you can see clusters of golfers moving slowly across the landscape, their voices carrying faintly on the morning breeze. You settle into your usual table, wrought iron painted white, cushions monogrammed with the club's crest. A waiter appears within seconds. Coffee, he asks, though it is not really a question. He already knows. He pours from a silver pot, asks if you will be dining, disappears when you say not yet. Around you, the terrace hums with quiet conversation. Everyone here is like you. Old money, inherited wealth, names that appear in society pages and alumni directories. They're all dressed casually, but casual at this level means tailored slacks, silk blouses, loafers that cost more than most people's monthly rent. You recognise most of them. Margaret from the garden club, Robert from the investment firm your family has used for generations, the Hendersons who summer in Martha's Vineyard and winter in Palm Beach. Everyone nods, smiles, offers small waves. These are not friendships exactly. They are alliances, mutual recognition of shared status. The conversation at nearby tables drifts over. Stock dividends, vacation plans, someone's daughter getting engaged to someone else's son, a union everyone agrees is quite suitable. There is gossip too, delivered in hushed tones, about families who have fallen on hard times, sold their estates, joined clubs that accept new money. The scandal of it all. Your coffee cools slowly in the morning sun. A bee hovers near the sugar bowl. In the distance, someone tees off, the crack of the club against the ball sharp and satisfying. The morning feels suspended, timeless, as if nothing here ever really changes. This is your world, this terrace, these people, this carefully maintained bubble of privilege, and for now, for this moment, it is enough. Lunch at the country club is served on fine china, and the martinis arrive before the appetizers. You sit at a table with men in blazers and women in pastel dresses, and the conversation drifts lazily between stock portfolios, vacation homes, and the latest charity gala. The dining room is elegant, hushed, lit by chandeliers that cast warm pools of light across white tablecloths. Heavy drapes frame tall windows overlooking the golf course. The carpet is thick enough to muffle footsteps. Conversations happen in low tones, the kind of discretion that allows people to discuss money without seeming crass about it. Your martini arrives in a chilled glass, 3 olives speared on a silver pick. The gin is top shelf, the vermouth barely a whisper. You take a sip, feel the cold burn settle into your chest, and relax into your chair. Around the table, everyone else is doing the same. This is ritual. This is tradition. This is how business gets discussed when nobody wants to admit they are discussing business. To your left is Harrison, who manages his family's real estate empire with the kind of detached competence that comes from never having worried about money. To your right is Constance, whose husband owns a manufacturing company and who serves on the boards of at least 5 charities. Across from you is Douglas, recently returned from his summer home in Newport, tan and relaxed and full of stories about sailing. The conversation is pleasant, meandering, deceptively casual. Harrison mentions a commercial property downtown that might be worth acquiring. Just something to consider, he says, swirling his martini. Constance talks about a fundraising gala she's organising for the symphony. We are hoping to raise at least 200,000, she says, as if discussing the cost of groceries. Douglas asks if anyone has tried the new French restaurant on the waterfront. Overpriced, he concludes, but the wine list is exceptional. Appetizers arrive, oysters on the half shell, shrimp cocktail, smoked salmon on toast points. The waiter refreshes drinks without being asked. The bread basket is warm, the butter soft. Everything is designed to make you forget that this is a transaction, that beneath the pleasantries and the martinis, calculations are being made. Harrison leans in slightly, lowers his voice. I am thinking about diversifying into municipal bonds, he says. What do you think? You offer an opinion, vague but informed enough to sound knowledgeable. He nods, satisfied. This is not advice he will follow. This is permission. Validation from a peer that his instincts are sound. Constance touches your arm lightly. We need sponsors for the gala, she says. Would your family be interested in a table? It is not really a question. Your family always takes a table. You nod, smile, say, of course. She writes something in a small leather notebook she keeps in her purse. Wonderful. I will send the details. Douglas, meanwhile, is telling a story about a disastrous polo match where someone's horse threw a tantrum and nearly trampled the British ambassador. Everyone laughs, not because the story is particularly funny, but because laughing is what you do. The martinis are working. The room feels warm, convivial, safe. Entrees arrive. Filet mignon, lobster thermidor, duck confit. The portions are modest, elegant, arranged like small works of art. You eat slowly, savouring each bite, listening to the conversation swirl around you. Talk shifts to vacation plans. Who is going where? The Hendersons just bought a villa in the south of France. The Ashfords are spending Christmas in Aspen. Douglas mentions his yacht is being refitted and should be ready by spring. Another round of drinks appears. The wine list is consulted. A bottle of Bordeaux is selected, decanted, poured with ceremony. Someone proposes a toast. to good friends and better investments. Glasses clink. Everyone drinks. By the time dessert arrives, you've discussed 3 potential business deals, committed to 2 charity events, and learned enough gossip to fuel a month of cocktail parties. None of it felt like work. None of it felt urgent. It all happened in the spaces between courses, lubricated by gin and wine, and the easy confidence that comes from never having to worry about the bill. This is how business gets done in your world. Over lunch, over drinks, with a handshake and a smile and the unspoken understanding that everyone at this table will remain at this table, in one form or another, for the rest of their lives. Your closet is not a closet, it is a room. Walk-in does not even begin to describe it. There are racks of tailored suits, rows of designer dresses, shelves of shoes that have never touched anything rougher than polished marble. The door opens to reveal a space larger than most people's bedrooms. Track lighting illuminates everything with the precision of a museum display. The walls are lined with custom cabinetry, each section dedicated to a specific category of clothing. Suits on the left, dresses in the centre, casual wear on the right. Shoes fill an entire wall, displayed like artifacts, organised by colour and season. You step inside, and the faint scent of cedar and expensive perfume washes over you. The carpet underfoot is plush, cream-coloured, spotless. A full-length mirror occupies one corner, flanked by a velvet ottoman where you sit to contemplate your options. Because choosing what to wear when you have this many options is, paradoxically, more difficult than having only a few. The suits are from Savile Row, tailored to fit you precisely. Each one represents a week of fittings, adjustments, consultations. The fabric is wool, cashmere, silk blends that feel like liquid under your fingertips, navy, charcoal, a lighter grey for summer, a pinstripe for formal occasions. You have worn some of them only once. You will wear some of them never. The dresses occupy the centre section, organised by formality. Cocktail dresses, evening gowns, day dresses. Each one is designer, each one unique. There are names stitched into the labels that most people only see in magazines. Halston, Yves Saint Laurent, Givenchy. You attended a fitting for that one in Paris, or was it New York? The details blur together after a while. Shoes fill an entire wall, each pair in its own cubby, stuffed with tissue paper to maintain shape. Pumps, loafers, sandals, boots. You have shoes for every occasion, every season, every possible outfit combination. Some you bought yourself, some were gifts, some came from a shopping trip you barely remember, accompanied by a personal shopper who made enthusiastic recommendations while you nodded absently. There is a section for accessories, scarves folded precisely, belts hanging on hooks, handbags displayed on shelves, each one in a dust bag, each one worth more than a used car. You have a Hermes Kelly bag you have carried exactly twice. It sits in its dust bag like a museum piece, too precious to risk. Jewellery lives in a locked cabinet with velvet-lined drawers, necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, most of it inherited, some of it purchased, all of it insured for obscene amounts. You open the top drawer, revealing rows of pearls, single strand, double strand, Baroque, Tahitian. Each set has a story you've forgotten. The closet even has a small island in the centre, drawers filled with lingerie, hosiery, pyjamas made of silk so fine they could dissolve in water. You pull open a drawer revealing stacks of cashmere sweaters in every conceivable colour. They are folded so precisely they look machine-made. You stand in the centre of this room surrounded by wealth-made fabric and feel oddly paralysed. What do you wear to lunch? What does one wear to look appropriately casual but still elegant? You settle on a day dress, simple but expensive, paired with low heels and a string of pearls. The outfit costs more than most people make in a month. You consider this normal. A full-length mirror reflects your image back at you. You adjust the pearls, smooth the dress, check your hair. You look perfect. Of course you do. Everything in this closet is designed to make you look perfect. That is its entire purpose. You close the closet door behind you, leaving behind racks of clothing you will never wear, shoes you will never scuff, handbags you will never carry. Tomorrow you will return, open the door, and face the same overwhelming abundance. And somehow, you will still feel like you have nothing to wear. In the afternoon, you might attend a charity luncheon. Charity in the 1970s, at least in your circles, is less about helping people and more about being seen helping people. The cause matters, of course, but what really matters is the guest list. The luncheon is held at the ballroom of a historic hotel downtown, the kind of place with marble columns and crystal chandeliers and waiters who move like synchronized dancers. You arrive precisely on time, not early, never late, and are greeted at the door by a woman with a clipboard and a smile so wide it looks professionally installed. "Welcome," she says, handing you a name tag on a ribbon designed to be worn around the neck. "Your table is number 7. The silent auction is in the East Gallery. Cocktails are being served in the foyer. You accept the name tag but do not put it on immediately." Name tags, in your world, are a necessary evil, a concession to the fact that even at exclusive events, not everyone knows everyone. You drape it around your neck and make your way toward the cocktail area, where the familiar hum of polite conversation already fills the air. The room is full of women in designer suits and tasteful jewellery, men in blazers and ties, everyone holding champagne flutes and making small talk that sounds important but signifies nothing. You recognise most of them. Patricia from the garden club, Susan who chairs the hospital auxiliary, the Vandenbergs who give generously to everything and make sure everyone knows it. A waiter offers you champagne. You accept, take a small sip, and survey the room. The cause today is children's literacy, or maybe childhood hunger. The signage says something about building brighter futures, which could mean anything. You make a mental note to check the programme later. Constance appears at your elbow, materialising as if summoned. "Darling," she says, kissing the air near your cheek. "I'm so glad you could make it. Have you seen the auction items? There is a weekend in Bermuda that I simply must have." You smile, nod, let her lead you toward the East Gallery where silent auction items are displayed on white-clothed tables. A vacation package, a painting by a local artist, a golf outing with a minor celebrity, spa packages, wine collections. Each item has a bid sheet beside it, names and amounts written in careful script. You scan the lists, recognise most of the names, add your own bid to a weekend getaway you will probably never use. A bell chimes softly. Time for lunch. Everyone migrates toward the ballroom, finding their assigned tables, settling into cushioned chairs. The room is beautiful, decorated with floral centerpieces that probably cost more than the cause will raise today. Place cards direct you to your seat. You're at a table with people you know vaguely, friends of friends, members of overlapping social circles. Lunch is served. A salad with candied pecans and goat cheese, a chicken breast with some kind of glaze, roasted vegetables arranged artfully, a small square of chocolate torte for dessert. Everyone eats delicately, dabbing at their mouths with linen napkins, commenting on how lovely everything is. The programme begins between courses. A woman in a severe suit takes the podium, thanks everyone for coming, introduces the cause with statistics that sound dire but abstract. She talks about children who cannot read, families who struggle, communities in need. She thanks the sponsors. She asks for continued support. She introduces a child who reads a prepared statement about how the charity changed his life. Everyone applauses politely. Then comes the ask. Envelopes are placed at each seat, pledge cards, donation forms. The woman at the podium reminds everyone that contributions are tax deductible. She mentions specific giving levels: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Each level comes with benefits, recognition, invitations to exclusive events. You pull out the envelope, glance at the form. You will write a check later, a generous one. Not because you are particularly moved by the cause, but because this is what people like you do. You give, you attend, you're seen giving. It eases something. Guilt, maybe. Obligation, certainly. By the time dessert is cleared, the event is winding down. People stand, gather their things, promise to call each other soon. You retrieve your handbag, say your goodbyes, and make your way toward the exit. On your way out, you pass the pledge board, where names and donation amounts are already being posted. Your family's name will be there soon, listed among the top donors, exactly where it always is. This is charity. This is how you help. And tomorrow there will be another luncheon, another cause, another opportunity to be seen doing good. You own a summer home, maybe in the Hamptons, maybe in Palm Springs, maybe on a private island in the Caribbean. You visit it twice a year, maybe 3 times if you are feeling adventurous. The rest of the time it sits there, fully staffed, perfectly maintained, waiting. The house is not small. It is never small. Summer homes at your level are estates, sprawling properties with multiple bedrooms, guest cottages, tennis courts, swimming pools that glitter like turquoise jewels under the sun. The one you own, whichever one it is, represents a financial commitment most people cannot fathom. Property taxes alone cost more than the median household income. But you do not think about that. You never think about that. You visit in July usually, sometimes August. The staff prepares for your arrival weeks in advance, airing out rooms, stocking the kitchen, arranging fresh flowers in every room. When you arrive, the house smells like lemon polish and salt air. The windows are spotless. The linens are crisp. It is as if the house has been holding its breath, waiting for you to remember it exists. The first day always feels magical. You walk through rooms filled with light, throw open doors to oceanfront views or mountain vistas or desert sunsets, depending on where this particular house happens to be. You tell yourself you will come here more often. You will slow down, relax, enjoy the investment. But even as you think it, you know it is not true. By the second day, the novelty fades. The house is too quiet. There is nothing to do. The nearest town is charming but small, and you exhaust its offerings in an afternoon. The beach is beautiful but hot. The tennis court sits empty because none of your friends are here. You read by the pool, swim a few laps, take a nap in the afternoon heat. The staff moves through the house like ghosts. A cook prepares meals you requested weeks ago and no longer want. A housekeeper tidies rooms that are already immaculate. A groundskeeper trims hedges and rakes gravel paths, maintaining landscaping you barely notice. They are all local, hired to live nearby and maintain the property year-round. They know the house better than you do. You stay a week, maybe 10 days if you are feeling committed. You host a dinner party for other wealthy families who also own homes nearby. Everyone compliments your view, your decor, your cook's lobster bisque. The conversation is identical to conversations you have back home. The same people, the same topics, just with better weather. On the last day, you pack your things, thank the staff, remind them to keep everything maintained. They nod, assure you everything will be perfect. You climb into the car, drive away, and do not think about the house again until next summer. For the next 11 months the house sits empty. The staff comes daily. They dust furniture no one sits on. They mow lawns no one walks across. They clean a pool no one swims in. The house is perfect always, maintained like a museum exhibit of a life you're supposed to be living, but somehow never quite do. Sometimes, late at night back in your primary residence, you think about that house. You remember the view from the terrace, the sound of waves or wind or birds, the way the light falls across the living room at sunset. You feel a small pang of something. Guilt, maybe. Waste, possibly. The knowledge that you own something beautiful and barely use it. But then morning comes. Routines resume. The country club, the charity luncheons, the social obligations that fill your calendar. The summer home fades back into the category of things you own but do not think about, like stocks in companies you cannot name or art in storage you have never seen. It will be there next July, waiting. Perfect. Empty. Exactly as you left it. Travel in your world is not an ordeal. There are no lines at the airport, no cramped middle seats, no lost luggage drama. You board a private jet, not because you are in a hurry, but because that is simply how people like you move through the world. The private terminal is quiet, elegant, nothing like the chaos of commercial airports. You arrive when you're ready, not 3 hours early to navigate security. Your chauffeur pulls directly up to the entrance. A representative greets you by name, takes your luggage, escorts you to a private lounge where leather chairs and fresh coffee await. The plane is small, sleek, yours or leased long-term, which amounts to the same thing. The interior is customized, cream leather seats that recline fully, polished wood accents, a small galley stocked with whatever you requested. There is no security line, no boarding process, no assigned seats. You walk across the tarmac, climb the stairs and settle into your usual spot. The pilot greets you over the intercom, outlines the flight plan in calm, professional tones. Weather looks good. Flight time approximately 2 hours. You nod to no one in particular, buckle your seatbelt loosely and accept a glass of champagne from the flight attendant. She's efficient, polished, hired specifically to make this experience seamless. The engines hum, the plane taxis. Within minutes you are airborne, rising above the city, above the traffic and crowds and ordinary lives unfolding below. You sip your champagne, flip through a magazine, or simply gaze out the window at clouds that look close enough to touch. There is a phone on the armrest if you need to make calls, a small table for work, though you rarely work. The flight is smooth, quiet, the kind of travel that feels less like transportation and more like floating. No crying babies, no strangers encroaching on your space, no flight attendants rattling carts down narrow aisles. Just you, the hum of engines, and the sky. When you land, there's no waiting for luggage. No customs line, though someone handles the paperwork invisibly. A car is already waiting on the tarmac. Your luggage is transferred directly. You are driven away before you have even fully registered arriving. If you prefer water to air, there is the yacht. Not a sailboat, a yacht. Something with multiple decks, a crew of 6, bedrooms called staterooms, a full kitchen called a galley. It sits docked at a private marina, polished and gleaming, waiting for the rare occasions when you decide to use it. The crew greets you with restrained enthusiasm. They have kept everything immaculate. The teak decks are spotless. The brass fittings shine. Below deck your stateroom is ready. Bed made with linens softer than anything on land. Towels monogrammed. Toiletries arranged like a luxury hotel. You set sail, though you do not actually sail. The captain handles that. You recline on the upper deck with a drink, watching the coastline drift past, feeling the sun on your face and the gentle rock of the boat beneath you. Lunch is served al fresco. Fresh fish, chilled wine, fruit cut into perfect cubes. This is travel. Not the messy, stressful experience most people endure, but a seamless glide from one place to another, insulated by money from every inconvenience. You do not wait. You do not struggle. You do not carry your own luggage or navigate confusing terminals or eat lukewarm meals from plastic trays. You simply decide where you want to be, and then you are there, as if by magic, though the magic is just wealth, and the systems built to serve it. Dinner parties in the 1970s, when you are this wealthy, are performances. The table is set with precision, the wine is older than your guests, and the conversation is carefully choreographed. Everyone is dressed impeccably, everyone smiles, everyone pretends to be relaxed. The dining room has been transformed. The long mahogany table gleams under candlelight, polished to a mirror finish. Each place setting is a work of art. China rimmed in gold, crystal glasses for water, white wine, red wine, champagne, silver flatware heavy in the hand. Place cards direct guests to their assigned seats, a seating chart you agonized over for days, balancing personalities, avoiding conflicts, ensuring conversation flows. You greet your guests in the foyer, kissing cheeks, accepting compliments on your home, your dress, your impeccable taste. Everyone arrives within a 15-minute window, fashionably late but not rudely so. The men wear tuxedos or dark suits. The women wear gowns, cocktail dresses, jewellery that catches the light and announces its value without words. Cocktails are served in the living room. A bartender you hired for the evening stands ready behind a temporary bar, mixing drinks with professional efficiency. Old fashions, Manhattans, gin and tonics, whatever is requested. Waiters circulate with trays of hors d'oeuvres, delicate bites that disappear in 2 nibbles. Smoked salmon on toast points, caviar on blinis, stuffed mushrooms. Everything is elegant, restrained, expensive. The conversation hums at that perfect pitch, loud enough to suggest liveliness but not so loud as to seem uncouth. People discuss vacations, investments, upcoming galas. Someone tells a story about a disastrous sailing trip. Someone else mentions a new restaurant opening downtown. Laughter punctuates the air, carefully modulated, never too loud. When dinner is announced, everyone migrates to the dining room. There's a moment of appreciative murmuring as guests take in the table, the candles, the flowers, the careful arrangement of it all. You've hired a florist to create centerpieces that are beautiful, but low enough not to obstruct conversation. White roses, orchids, greenery spilling elegantly across the table. The first course arrives. A soup, something French and indecipherable, served in delicate bowls. You watch your guests gauging reactions, relieved when they seem pleased. The cook you hired for the evening is from a restaurant downtown, borrowed for the night at significant expense. Every course has been planned, tested, perfected. Conversation flows between courses. The seating chart proves successful. To your right, Harrison is discussing real estate with Margaret. To your left, Douglas tells Constance about his recent trip to Europe. Across the table, someone laughs at a joke you did not hear. Wine is poured, emptied, poured again. The candlelight flatters everyone, softening edges, making the evening feel suspended in amber. The main course is elaborate. Duck or lamb or something equally impressive, plated like art, accompanied by vegetables you do not recognize but trust are seasonal and appropriate. Conversation deepens, loosened by wine. Someone asks about your summer home. Someone else inquires about your children away at boarding school. You answer graciously, deflecting deeper questions with practiced ease. By dessert, the performance is reaching its climax. A chocolate soufflé or a tart or something involving edible gold leaf, served with after-dinner drinks. Coffee, cognac, port. The conversation mellows, grows warmer, more genuine, though never entirely unguarded. These people are your friends, but they are also your competitors. Your peers, the ones who will gossip about this evening tomorrow over lunch. Eventually, guests begin making noises about departure. Thank you for a lovely evening. We must do this again soon. The ritual of goodbyes stretches on, promises to call, compliments repeated. You walk them to the door, accept final air kisses, wave as they climb into cars and disappear into the night. When the door finally closes, you lean against it, exhausted. The cook is cleaning the kitchen. The hired staff is clearing tables, packing up glasses, dismantling the temporary bar. You glance back at the dining room, now half dismantled, candles extinguished, the magic already fading. The performance is over, and it was perfect. Of course it was perfect. In your world it always is. Wine is not just a beverage in your world. It is a language, a currency, a way to signal taste and knowledge and sophistication. Your wine cellar is temperature controlled, meticulously organised, and stocked with bottles that would make collectors weep. The cellar is accessed through a door in the kitchen, down a flight of stone steps that descend into coolness and shadow. The temperature hovers around 55 degrees year-round, maintained by a climate control system that cost as much as a small house. The air smells faintly of oak, cork and time itself, as if centuries have been distilled into this underground room. Bottles line the walls in custom wooden racks, each one cradled at a precise angle to keep the cork moist, the wine preserved. The lighting is soft, designed not to disturb the bottles, which rest like sleeping royalty. There are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. You have never counted. Your wine steward manages the inventory, tracks the vintages, knows which bottles are ready to drink and which need another decade. Some of these bottles are older than you. A Bordeaux from 1947, purchased by your grandfather at auction. A Burgundy from 1959, a gift from a business associate. Champagne from the 1920s, bottles that survived prohibition, wars, depressions, everything the century could throw at them. They sit in your cellar, waiting, their value increasing with every passing year. You do not drink these wines casually. They are reserved for special occasions, for guests who will appreciate them, for moments that deserve commemoration. Opening a bottle from 1947 is not a decision made lightly. It is a performance, a ritual. The cork is extracted carefully, examined for signs of deterioration. The wine is poured into a decanter, allowed to breathe, swirled gently to release aromas decades in the making. When it is finally served, everyone at the table falls silent, inhaling, tasting, offering reverent commentary. Your knowledge of wine is extensive, not because you are naturally passionate about it, but because ignorance is unacceptable in your circles. You have attended tastings, studied vintage charts, learned the difference between left bank and right bank, memorized which years were exceptional and which were merely good. You can discuss terroir, tannins, acidity, finish. You know which chateau produced the most prestigious bottles and which wines are considered investments. At dinner parties, the wine you serve is as important as the food. Guests notice, they comment, they remember. Serving a mediocre wine is a social failure, a signal that you either lack knowledge or lack resources. So you serve the good bottles, the ones that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars, and you watch your guests appreciate them with the gravity they deserve. There is a catalogue in the cellar, leather-bound, pages filled with handwritten notes documenting every bottle. Purchase date, provenance, tasting notes. Some entries are in your handwriting. Most are in your wine steward's elegant script. He visits monthly to assess the collection, recommend purchases, suggest which bottles are approaching their peak. You have bottles you will never drink. They're too valuable, too rare, too historically significant. They sit in the cellar as investments, their value tracked in ledgers, their existence more theoretical than real. You could sell them at auction for staggering sums, but you do not. That would be gauche. New money sells wine. Old money collects it. Sometimes you descend the steps alone, walk between the racks, run your fingers along the cool glass bottles. Each one represents a moment, a decision, a small piece of history. You pull one occasionally, dust it off, examine the label. The paper is fragile, yellowed, the script faded. You replace it carefully, leave it for another year, another decade, another generation. This is your wine cellar, not just a room, a library of liquid time, a collection of moments preserved in glass. And like everything else in your life, it is beautiful, valuable, and somehow never quite enough. If you have children, they do not attend public school. They attend institutions with names like Exeter, Andover, Choate, places where tuition costs as much as a house, and where the real education is not in the classroom but in the connections formed over lacrosse matches and secret society meetings. The decision was made before they were born, really. Your family has attended these schools for generations. Your grandfather went, your father went, you went, and now your children will go, continuing a legacy that stretches back decades, maybe centuries. It is not a question of whether they will attend. It is only a question of which one. The application process is elaborate, though for families like yours it is more formality than uncertainty. There are essays, interviews, recommendations from the right people. Your children are bright, certainly, but their acceptance is secured less by their test scores and more by the family name, the alumni connections, the generous donations your family has made over the years. Legacy admissions are not advertised, but they are understood. This is how the system works. This is how it has always worked. You visit the campus in autumn, when the leaves are turning and the old brick buildings look particularly dignified. The grounds are immaculate, sprawling acres of green lawns, historic architecture, athletic fields that rival professional facilities. Students move between classes in uniform, blazers and ties for boys, pleated skirts and cardigans for girls. Everyone looks healthy, confident, destined for success. The headmaster greets you personally, remembers your own time at the school, mentions your father's contributions to the new science building. You tour classrooms where discussions about Plato and calculus and European history unfold at levels that would challenge most college students. The library is hushed, cathedral-like, filled with books and students bent over desks in serious concentration. But the real education happens elsewhere, in the dormitories, where friendships form that will last a lifetime, on the lacrosse field, where future senators and CEOs learn to compete and cooperate, at secret society meetings, where bonds are forged in rituals unchanged for a century. Your children will learn history and literature, certainly, but more importantly, they will learn who matters, who comes from the right families, who can be trusted to maintain the social order. The other students are like them, children of wealth, of privilege, of families whose names appear on buildings and in history books. There are exceptions, of course. Scholarship students, brilliant kids from middle-class families, admitted to add diversity and maintain the school's academic reputation. Your children will befriend some of them, but everyone understands the invisible hierarchy. Legacy students, scholarship students. The division is never spoken but always present. The school costs $50,000 a year, maybe 60, maybe more. You do not think about it because you do not have to. The check is written annually, automatically, from a trust fund established for precisely this purpose. Your children will graduate with degrees that open doors, with networks that last forever, with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you are educated among the elite. You remember your own time there, though the memories are hazy now. Long winters, study halls, weekend trips into town, the secret society you were invited to join junior year, the initiation you cannot discuss, the friendships that still matter decades later. Some of your closest business associates attended the same school. You met them at 17, reconnected at 25, have been in each other's orbits ever since. Your children will complain, probably. They will miss home. They will struggle with the workload, the isolation, the pressure to perform, but they will survive. They will adapt. And years from now, they will send their own children to the same institution, perpetuating the cycle, maintaining the legacy. This is education in your world. Not just knowledge acquired, but connections forged, networks established, legacies preserved. The classroom is secondary. The real lesson is who you know and how you learn to know them. Marriage in your social class is not always about romance. It is about maintaining wealth, combining estates, preserving legacies. Love is nice, certainly, but what really matters is whether the union makes financial and social sense. You met your spouse at a function, a gala maybe, or a country club dinner, or perhaps a weekend at someone's estate. The introduction was not accidental. Your families had been circling each other for years, evaluating compatibility, assessing wealth, determining whether a union would be advantageous. When you were finally introduced, it felt spontaneous, but nothing at your level is ever truly spontaneous. The courtship was pleasant. Dinners at expensive restaurants, weekends at summer homes, introductions to each other's families, everyone smiling, evaluating, calculating. You liked each other well enough. There was attraction, certainly, and affection, but also an understanding that this relationship was about more than just the two of you. It was about combining fortunes, merging social circles, creating a partnership that benefited both families. Your parents approved. That mattered more than you like to admit. They liked the family name, the pedigree, the fact that wealth on both sides was old and substantial. There were quiet conversations about prenuptial agreements, about how estates would be structured, about what would happen in the unfortunate event of divorce. These conversations happened without you, between lawyers and accountants, reducing romance to spreadsheets and legal documents. The wedding was elaborate. 300 guests, a church ceremony followed by a reception at the country club. Your dress cost more than most people's cars. The flowers alone could have funded a small non-profit. Everyone who mattered attended. The society pages covered it extensively. You looked beautiful in the photographs, radiant and happy, though you also looked slightly dazed, like someone who had been swept along by forces larger than themselves. The marriage is good, not passionate perhaps, but stable, comfortable. You and your spouse occupied different wings of the house much of the time, pursuing separate interests, maintaining separate social calendars. You come together for dinners, for events, for appearances. You present a united front to the world, the perfect couple, wealthy and attractive and successful. There is affection between you, real affection. You know each other's habits, preferences, quirks. You can anticipate each other's needs, finish each other's sentences at dinner parties. You have built a life together, raised children together, weathered challenges together. It is not the sweeping romance of novels and films, but it is something deeper, more durable, rooted in shared history and mutual benefit. But sometimes, late at night, you wonder what your life would have looked like if you had married for love alone, if you had chosen someone unsuitable, someone your family would have frowned upon, someone who made your heart race but could not maintain your lifestyle. Would you have been happier? Would the passion have compensated for the loss of security, of status, of the life you were born into? You will never know. That version of your life exists only in imagination, in the road not taken. You made your choice, or perhaps your choice was made for you, and now you live with it. The marriage serves its purpose. The estates have been combined. The children have the right pedigree. The social order has been maintained. This is love in your world. Practical, strategic, built on foundations of money and status rather than emotion. It works in its way. It endures. And if sometimes you feel lonely even with your spouse beside you, well, that is simply the price of maintaining the life you've always known. On weekends, you might attend a polo match or, if you are feeling particularly traditional, a fox hunt. These are not activities you necessarily enjoy. They are rituals, performances of a lifestyle that your family has maintained for generations. The polo field stretches before you, immaculately groomed grass where horses thunder past in bursts of speed and power. You sit in the pavilion with other spectators, shaded from the sun, sipping champagne from crystal flutes. Everyone is dressed carefully, women in wide-brimmed hats and sundresses, men in linen blazers and sunglasses. You watch the match unfold, players in white leaning from saddles to strike the ball with long mallets, horses wheeling and turning with impressive precision. You do not entirely understand the rules. Something about goals and chukkers and fouls, terminology you nod along to when others discuss it. But understanding is not really the point. The point is being here, being seen, participating in this tradition that signifies wealth and leisure, and a connection to aristocratic pastimes imported from Britain and Argentina decades ago. Between chukas there is the divot stomp, where spectators walk onto the field to replace chunks of torn grass. It is framed as participation, a way to help maintain the field, but really it is an excuse to socialize, to be photographed, to show off your outfit. You walk across the grass in your expensive shoes, pressing down divots with your heel, chatting with people you see at every event, wondering how many more weekends you will spend doing exactly this. The fox hunt is even more elaborate, steeped in tradition so old it feels almost medieval. You arrive at the meet early in the morning, when the air is still cool and mist hangs over the fields. The hounds mill about, eager and loud. The horses are saddled and ready, their coats gleaming. The riders wear hunting pinks, the traditional scarlet jackets, though some wear black if they have not yet earned their colours. Everyone holds crops and wears velvet caps and speaks in a particular accent that seems reserved exclusively for these occasions. You mount your horse, a borrowed animal because you do not own one, and join the field. The huntmaster blows the horn. The hounds surge forward. The horses follow, breaking into a canter, then a gallop, thundering across fields and through woods. You cling to the reins, heart pounding, trying to look graceful while mostly just trying not to fall off. The fox is theoretical. You rarely see it. Sometimes the hounds pick up a scent and chase it for a while, baying excitedly, but often they lose it, or the fox goes to ground and the hunt ends anticlimactically. But finding the fox is not really the point. The point is the ride, the tradition, the pageantry of it all. Afterward there is a hunt breakfast, which is actually lunch, served at someone's estate. Long tables are set with heavy platters of food, roasts and pies and dishes that seem designed to replenish the calories burned during the ride. Everyone is flushed and muddy and exhilarated, or at least pretending to be. You eat, drink hot cider or something stronger, listen to stories about impressive jumps and near misses, and the one time someone actually caught a fox. You smile and nod and contribute your own polite observations, but inside you're calculating how soon you can leave without seeming rude. Your back hurts, your thighs ache. You're not sure you enjoyed a single moment of the actual ride, though you will tell people later that it was exhilarating, wonderful, something you simply must do again. These activities, polo and fox hunting and other similarly antiquated pastimes, are not about enjoyment. They're about belonging, about demonstrating that you are part of a world that still values these old traditions. They are performances, and you're expected to play your part, to show up and smile and pretend that galloping across muddy fields chasing an animal you will never catch is somehow the height of sophisticated leisure. You do it because your family has always done it, because not doing it would be noticed, because this is what people like you do on weekends, when they are not at the country club or the charity luncheon or the dinner party. You maintain the traditions even when they no longer make sense, because to abandon them would be to admit that perhaps your entire way of life is built on customs that have outlived their purpose. Your jewellery collection is not costume, it is investment grade. Diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, all stored in a vault at the estate or in a safety deposit box at a bank where the staff knows your name and your family history. The vault at home is hidden behind a painting in the library, a secret panel that opens with a combination only you and your spouse know. Inside, velvet-lined drawers hold pieces that have been in your family for generations. A diamond necklace your grandmother wore to her wedding, emerald earrings that belong to your great-aunt, a sapphire bracelet purchased in Paris in the 1920s, surviving wars and economic collapses and every upheaval the century offered. Each piece has a story, though you have forgotten most of them. You know the jewellery is valuable, worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime, but the stories have faded, passed down incompletely or not at all. You wear the pieces occasionally to galas and formal dinners, and people compliment them without knowing their history. The necklace is beautiful. Where did you get it? You smile and say it is a family piece, which is both an answer and an evasion. Some of the jewellery you never wear. It sits in the vault, appreciating in value, waiting for the next generation. There are pieces too old-fashioned for current tastes, brooches and tiaras and ornate Victorian designs that belong in museums. There are pieces too valuable to risk, insured for staggering amounts, worn perhaps once or twice before being locked away again. You have a favourite piece, though you rarely admit it. A simple pearl necklace, nothing elaborate, given to you by your grandmother before she died. It is not the most valuable piece in the collection, not by far, but it is the one you reach for when you need to feel connected to something real, something that carries memory rather than just monetary worth. The insurance on your jewellery collection costs thousands annually. An appraiser visits every few years to reassess values, update documentation, photograph each piece for the records. You sit with them, pulling out drawer after drawer, watching them examine stones under magnifying glasses, taking notes in precise handwriting. They handle each piece with reverence, commenting on the quality of the cuts, the clarity of the stones, the craftsmanship of settings created before machines standardized everything. The bank vault holds even more valuable pieces, the ones you inherited but have never worn, the ones too significant to keep at home even with the security system and the staff and the general isolation of your estate. You visit once a year, maybe, signing in at the bank, being escorted to the vault room, opening the safety deposit box with a key you keep in a locked drawer at home. Inside are pieces that take your breath away. A diamond bracelet with stones so large they look fake. A ruby ring that once belonged to someone famous, purchased at auction by your grandfather. Loose stones too, investments more than jewellery, kept because their value increases faster than money in accounts. You hold them briefly, let them catch the light, then tuck them away again, back into darkness, back into waiting. Your children will inherit all of it someday. The vault at home, the safety deposit box, the pieces worn and the pieces never worn. You wonder if they will value them, or if they will simply see dollar signs, investments to be liquidated, history to be sold to the highest bidder. You hope they will understand that these are not just jewels but connections to the past, physical links to people who came before, whose lives and choices and loves are crystallized in gold and gemstones. But you know deep down that they will probably do what you do. Keep some pieces for sentiment, store others for value, wear the pretty ones occasionally, let the rest sit in darkness, appreciating, waiting, existing more on insurance documents than in actual use. This is your jewellery collection. Beautiful, valuable, largely invisible. Another asset in a portfolio of assets, another symbol of wealth that spends most of its existence locked away, unseen, waiting for occasions that grow increasingly rare. Your home is filled with art, not prints, not replicas, originals, paintings by artists whose names you learned in school, whose works hang in museums. You inherited most of it. You do not necessarily understand it, but you know its value. The paintings line your walls, interspersed with family portraits and landscapes purchased by ancestors with better taste, or at least more confident taste than you possess. In the living room hangs an impressionist piece, all soft light and blurred garden scenes, purchased by your great-grandfather on a trip to Paris in the 1890s. The colours have faded slightly. The canvas shows its age, but the signature in the corner is unmistakable, a name everyone recognises. In the dining room, a still life from the Dutch Golden Age, dark and moody, depicting fruits and flowers arranged with mathematical precision. You've eaten thousands of meals beneath it, glancing up occasionally at the painted grapes and wilting roses, never quite appreciating the skill required to make oil paint look like velvet and moisture and decay. Your study contains more modern pieces, angular abstracts from the mid-20th century, paintings your father collected when they were merely expensive rather than astronomically valuable. You stare at them sometimes, trying to understand what you're supposed to see, what moved your father to purchase them. They are striking, certainly, bold slashes of colour and geometric forms, but their meaning eludes you. You've been offered staggering sums for some of these pieces. Galleries call periodically. Museums inquire delicately about potential donations. You always decline. Not because you particularly love the paintings, but because selling them would feel like a betrayal of the family, an admission that you need money, which you do not. The art stays on the walls, appreciating in value, existing as both decoration and investment. An appraiser visits annually, walking through your home with a clipboard and a practiced eye. They pause before each painting, examining brushstrokes, checking signatures, updating values in their ledger. The collection is worth millions now, maybe tens of millions. The exact number fluctuates with the market, with auction results, with the rise and fall of particular artists' reputations. You have insurance, of course, elaborate coverage that costs more than most people's mortgages. The policy includes climate control requirements, security system specifications, rules about where paintings can be hung and how much direct sunlight they can receive. You follow these rules vaguely, trusting that your staff understands the details better than you do. Some pieces hang in storage, too valuable or too delicate or too unfashionable to display. They rest in a climate-controlled room in the basement, wrapped in protective coverings, waiting for taste to change, for a grandchild who might appreciate them, for the market to rise high enough to justify selling. But you know you will never sell. Your family does not sell art. Your family accumulates it. There are pieces you genuinely like, though you would never admit which ones. Admitting preference feels unsophisticated, as if you lack the refined taste to appreciate the more challenging works. So you speak about all of it in the same reverent tones, praising brushwork and composition and historical significance, hiding the fact that you would rather look at the simple landscape in the guest bedroom than the celebrated abstract in your study. Your children show little interest in the collection. They grew up surrounded by it, which perhaps made it invisible, just wallpaper depicting images from centuries past. You worry sometimes about what will happen to it when you are gone. Will they keep it, sell it, donate it to a museum where at least it will be properly appreciated, even if by strangers rather than family? The art collection is another weight, another responsibility inherited along with the money and the name and the expectations. It requires maintenance, insurance, expertise you do not possess. It makes your home feel like a museum, beautiful but untouchable, filled with objects that demand care and respect but offer little warmth. Still, there is something comforting about living among these paintings, these artifacts of human creativity spanning centuries. They connect you to history, to a world larger than your own immediate concerns. And sometimes, late at night, you stand before one of them and try to see what the artist saw, to feel what they felt, to bridge the gap between their vision and your inherited possession of it. Fall brings the gala season, charity balls, fundraising dinners, society events where everyone dresses to impress, and nobody admits they are exhausted. You attend because it is expected, because your family has always attended, because absence would be noticed. Your calendar fills with invitations, heavy cardstock envelopes embossed with gold, dates and times and dress codes printed in elegant script. Black tie, white tie, cocktail attire. Each invitation represents an evening of performance, hours of smiling and mingling and pretending you are delighted to be there. The first gala is in September, a fundraiser for the symphony. You have your dress selected weeks in advance, altered to fit perfectly, shoes dyed to match. Your jewellery is chosen with care, significant enough to be noticed but not so ostentatious as to seem desperate. Your hair is styled, your makeup applied, your appearance curated to project effortless elegance. The ballroom glitters. Chandeliers cast warm light across hundreds of guests, everyone polished and perfumed and prosperous. You make your entrance, are greeted by the hostess, are immediately absorbed into the crowd. The evening follows a familiar rhythm. Cocktails and small talk, dinner at your assigned table, speeches about the cause, appeals for donations, an auction, silent and live, where you bid on items you do not want to support causes you barely understand. You smile until your face aches. You laugh at jokes that are not funny. You make conversation with people you saw last week and will see again next week, discussing the same topics in slightly different words. The salmon is excellent. The flowers are lovely. Have you planned your holiday travel? Where are your children now? The gala season stretches from September through December, 3 months of near-weekly events, each one blurring into the next. A fundraiser for the hospital, a ball for the museum, a dinner for the Arts Council. Your closet fills with gowns worn once, photographed extensively, never to be worn again because someone might remember and judge the repetition. You develop strategies for survival. You identify allies, people you genuinely like, and position yourself near them at cocktail hour. You master the art of the graceful exit, knowing exactly when you can leave without causing offence. You pace yourself with alcohol, enough to soften the edges but not enough to say something you will regret. Some galas are better than others. Occasionally there is good music, live bands or orchestras that make dancing feel less like obligation and more like pleasure. Occasionally the food is exceptional, prepared by celebrated chefs brought in to elevate the evening. Occasionally you have genuine conversations, moments of real connection that remind you why you participate in this circuit. But mostly, the galas are endurance tests. Your feet hurt in the expensive shoes. Your dress digs into your ribs. Your face freezes in a smile that feels painted on. You watch the clock, calculating how much longer you must stay, when you can reasonably make your excuses and escape. At home afterward, you peel off the dress, step out of the shoes, wash away the makeup. Your spouse does the same. Both of you too tired to discuss the evening, to debrief or analyse or gossip about who said what. You collapse into bed, grateful for silence, for darkness, for the temporary reprieve before the next invitation arrives. The galas serve a purpose, you remind yourself. They raise money for important causes. They maintain social networks. They provide opportunities for your family to demonstrate commitment to the community, to be seen as generous and engaged. But they also exhaust you, drain something essential, leave you feeling like a performing seal dressed in diamonds and silk. By December, when the season finally ends, you feel wrung out, depleted, desperate for quiet evenings at home. You swear you will attend fewer events next year, be more selective, protect your energy. But when September arrives again, the invitations start coming, and you accept them all, because that is what people like you do. You show up, you smile, you perform, you maintain the facade season after season, year after year, until you can no longer remember when it became a chore rather than a pleasure. Your household staff has their own dramas, their own lives, their own frustrations. You pretend not to notice. You smile politely. You thank them for their service. But you do not ask too many questions. It is easier that way. But you hear things. Fragments of conversations when you pass through the kitchen. The housekeeper complaining to the cook about her back pain. The gardener mentioning to the chauffeur that his truck needs repairs he cannot afford. Quiet tensions that ripple through the household, invisible to guests but palpable to anyone paying attention. The cook and the housekeeper do not get along. You noticed this months ago, maybe years. They are professionally polite when you are present, but you have heard the sharp edges in their voices when they think no one is listening. Something about cleaning schedules and kitchen access, a disagreement that has calcified into permanent coldness. The chauffeur is having financial troubles. You overheard him on the phone once, arguing with someone about medical bills, his voice tight with stress. He didn't notice you standing nearby. You retreated quietly, unwilling to embarrass him by acknowledging his struggles. You could help, of course. You could offer a bonus, a loan, something to ease the burden. But you do not, because that would require acknowledging you know, and acknowledgement would break the invisible barrier between employer and employee. The gardener's daughter is sick. You learnt this from your spouse, who learned it from someone else. Something serious, requiring treatments that are expensive and exhausting. The gardener has never mentioned it to you directly. He arrives every morning, tends the grounds with the same steady care, leaves at dusk without complaint. You want to say something, offer condolences or support, but you do not know how without making it awkward, without crossing lines that have always remained uncrossed. There are other dramas too, smaller but no less real. The part-time maid who shows up late too often, causing resentment among the others who maintain their schedules impeccably. The new cook's assistant who burned something expensive and was nearly fired before your spouse intervened. The chauffeur and the gardener, who were friends but had a falling out over something you never learned about, now maintaining chilly distance in the garage where they used to chat. You observe all of this peripherally, never directly. You catch glimpses of their lives the way you might catch glimpses of a movie playing in another room. You know it is happening. You can sense the emotions and conflicts, but you remain deliberately removed, unwilling or unable to engage. Sometimes you feel guilty about this distance. These people work in your home, handle your possessions, know your routines intimately. They are part of your daily life in ways your friends are not. And yet you know almost nothing about them. You do not know the housekeeper's favourite food or the cook's birthday. You have never asked the gardener about his hobbies, or the chauffeur about his family beyond polite pleasantries. The gulf between you feels unbridgeable. You pay them well, you believe, though you have never actually discussed salaries with them directly. That is handled by your accountant, like so many things. You provide benefits, holiday bonuses, occasional time off. You consider yourself a good employer, benevolent and fair. But good employment is not the same as genuine connection. They see you at your worst and your best. They see the arguments with your spouse, the mornings when you are irritable, the evenings when you drink too much. They clean up after you, literally and figuratively, and they never comment, never judge, at least not to your face. What they say to each other, in their own spaces and their own time, you can only imagine. You've convinced yourself that everyone prefers this arrangement, that they want to maintain professional distance as much as you do, that acknowledging their personal struggles would embarrass them, burden them, create discomfort on both sides. But sometimes you wonder if this is self-deception, if you maintain distance not for their comfort but for your own, because truly seeing their lives would require you to confront the massive gulf between your circumstances and theirs. So you pretend not to notice. You move through your home like a benevolent ghost, present but removed, aware but deliberately unseeing. And the staff continues their work, their dramas playing out in spaces you do not enter, their lives unfolding in parallel to yours, close but never touching. Your family owns a hunting lodge somewhere remote, Montana maybe, or upstate New York. It is rustic by your standards, which means it only has 5 bedrooms and the wine cellar is slightly smaller. This is where business happens, quietly, away from prying eyes. The lodge sits at the end of a long dirt road surrounded by forest, deliberately difficult to reach. No neighbours, no witnesses, just acres of wilderness and a structure built from logs and stone, designed to look modest while actually costing a fortune. The kind of place where powerful men have gathered for generations to hunt, drink, and make decisions that shape industries. You visit twice a year, usually in autumn. The drive from the airport takes hours, winding through increasingly remote terrain, passing through small towns that feel frozen in time. When you finally arrive, the lodge manager greets you, already has fires burning in the stone fireplaces, already has the bar stocked with your preferred whiskey. Inside, the decor is deliberately masculine. Mounted animal heads on the walls, trophies from hunts decades past. Leather furniture, worn and comfortable. Wooden beams overhead, thick and rough-hewn. The lighting is dim, warm, creating an atmosphere of intimacy and secrecy. This is not a place for wives, for children, for anyone who might soften the sharp edges of business. The guests arrive throughout the day. Business associates, political connections, men whose names you recognize from newspapers and boardrooms. Everyone is casual here, or at least dressed casually, wearing flannel and jeans and boots, costumes that signal we're just regular men in the woods, even though everyone present could buy the town at the bottom of the mountain. The first evening is devoted to whiskey and cigars and storytelling. War stories from business campaigns, deals won and lost, competitors vanquished or respected. The conversation is boastful but comfortable, everyone performing masculinity in its most traditional form. Someone produces a deck of cards. Money changes hands, though the amounts are insignificant, the gambling more ritual than risk. The next morning, the hunt. You ride out in trucks, armed with expensive rifles, accompanied by guides who know the land intimately. Deer, mostly. Sometimes elk. The kill itself is almost secondary to the experience, the camaraderie of men moving through wilderness together, sharing something primal and ancient. But the real purpose of the trip happens in between, in quiet conversations on the porch after the hunt, in late-night discussions over brandy when most have gone to bed. This is where deals are proposed, partnerships explored, understandings reached. The lodge provides cover, a reason for men who should not be seen together to gather without raising questions. Just a hunting trip, just old friends enjoying tradition. You listen more than you speak. You're younger than most of the men here, still learning the language, the subtle cues, the way business is conducted in spaces like this. Someone mentions a company that might be for sale. Someone else knows someone on the board. A third party suggests a valuation. Nothing is written down. Nothing is committed. But by the end of the weekend, frameworks have been established, alliances formed, futures shaped. The lodge has seen generations of these gatherings. Your grandfather hosted them. Your father continued the tradition. Now you do, maintaining the space, inviting the right people, ensuring that the lodge remains what it has always been, a sanctuary where power consolidates itself away from scrutiny, where decisions are made that will affect thousands of people who will never know this place exists. There are rules here, unspoken but absolute. What is said at the lodge stays at the lodge. No spouses, no recordings, no written correspondence about anything discussed here. The lodge exists in a kind of legal and social limbo, a space outside the normal rules where men can speak freely and plan boldly without fear of exposure. You leave after 3 days, drive back to the airport, return to your regular life. The lodge manager will maintain everything until the next visit. The mounted animals will continue their silent watch. The fireplaces will remain ready to be lit. And the next generation of deals will be made in exactly the same way, in exactly the same place, continuing a tradition that feels both outdated and essential. This is your hunting lodge. Not really about hunting. About power, access, and the understanding that some business cannot be conducted in boardrooms or offices, or anywhere the light reaches too clearly. You do not drive a sedan. You drive a Rolls-Royce, a Mercedes, a Jaguar. Something sleek, something expensive, something that makes people turn their heads when you pull up. The car is polished weekly. The interior smells like leather and privilege. The Rolls-Royce is your primary vehicle, though primary suggests you drive it yourself, which you rarely do. The chauffeur handles that, navigating traffic while you sit in the back seat, separated from him by a privacy panel, surrounded by wood veneer and soft leather and silence so complete it feels engineered. Which it is. The car is designed to insulate you from the world, from noise and chaos and the ordinary experiences of transportation. The exterior is black, always black, polished to a mirror shine. The chrome gleams. The spirit of ecstasy hood ornament catches light like a tiny silver goddess. People notice when this car passes. They notice at red lights, at valet stands, anywhere you stop for even a moment. Some admire it, some resent it. Most simply stare, trying to catch a glimpse through the tinted windows, wondering who sits inside, what their life must be like. You have other cars too. A Mercedes convertible for summer, cream-coloured with tan leather interior, kept in the garage beneath a custom cover. You drive this one yourself occasionally, on perfect Saturday mornings when you feel like pretending you are spontaneous. The drive lasts an hour, maybe 2. You stop for lunch somewhere scenic. People stare at the car. You enjoy it for a moment, the attention, the visible symbol of your success. Then you drive home and park it again, return it to darkness and waiting. Your spouse has a Jaguar, low and fast and British racing green. It sits beside your Mercedes in the temperature-controlled garage. Another trophy, another statement. The garage itself houses 6 cars, though only 3 are regularly used. The others are classics, investments, vehicles purchased decades ago that have appreciated in value. A 1963 Corvette, a 1955 Thunderbird. Cars your father bought. Maintained meticulously. Drove rarely. You've considered selling them. They require maintenance, insurance, garage space. But selling them feels wrong. like betraying your father's memory, or perhaps just admitting you do not have enough money to keep them, which would be absurd given your wealth but somehow still embarrassing. The cars are serviced by a mechanic who comes to the estate, works in your garage, leaves everything pristine. Oil changes, tyre rotations, detailing that makes the cars look perpetually new. You never see repair bills. Your accountant handles that, like everything else, the costs disappearing into the larger ocean of expenses you never quite track. When you drive yourself, which is rare, you feel strangely exposed. The Rolls-Royce is too conspicuous for casual errands. The Mercedes feels performative, like you're trying too hard. You find yourself missing anonymity, the ability to drive somewhere without being noticed, without the car announcing your wealth before you have even parked. But anonymity is not an option in your world. Everything you own signals something. The cars, the house, the clothes. It all communicates status, wealth, belonging to a particular class. The cars are particularly visible symbols, rolling advertisements for your success, impossible to miss or ignore. At the country club, the parking lot is a showroom of wealth. Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Mercedes, the occasional Ferrari or Aston Martin, though those are considered slightly flashy, more new money than old. Your car fits perfectly among them, neither the most nor least ostentatious. It signals that you belong, that you understand the codes, that your wealth is substantial but not desperate to prove itself. The chauffeur knows your preferences without asking. Temperature set to exactly 70 degrees, radio off, privacy panel up. He drives smoothly, anticipating traffic, avoiding sudden stops or sharp turns. The ride is so smooth you can read or work or simply stare out the window without distraction. This is travel as it should be, you think. Effortless, silent, isolated from the chaos of the road. But sometimes, stuck in traffic, separated from the world by glass and leather and money, you watch people in other cars, families in minivans, young people in old sedans, workers in trucks. They seem more alive somehow, more present, singing along to radios or arguing with passengers, or simply existing in their ordinary vehicles in ways you have not experienced in decades. Your car is beautiful, expensive, a masterpiece of engineering and craftsmanship. But it is also a barrier, another layer between you and the world, another symbol that you are separate, protected, removed from the experiences of ordinary people. And sometimes, watching those other cars pass, you wonder what it would feel like to trade places just for a day, to drive something modest and be invisible in traffic, to arrive somewhere without everyone turning to look. But then the traffic clears, the chauffeur accelerates, and the Rolls-Royce glides forward, smooth and silent and separate. And you settle back into the leather seat, close your eyes, and let the isolation comfort you, because this is your life, and there is no going back to anything simpler, even if you wanted to. The social scene in your world is small. Everyone knows everyone. Every party feels like a reunion, except nobody's actually happy to see each other. There is gossip, rivalry, quiet judgment. But everyone smiles. You arrive at yet another cocktail party, this one hosted by the Ashfords at their estate across town. The same people who were at the gala last week are here tonight. The same conversations will unfold with only minor variations. Margaret will discuss her rose garden. Harrison will mention his new boat. Constance will circulate with her charity clipboard, securing commitments before anyone has finished their first drink. The living room buzzes with familiar voices, pitched at that perfect volume that suggests animation without actual enthusiasm. You accept a martini from the bartender, scan the room, identify the usual clusters. The men gather near the fireplace, discussing business in low tones. The women occupy the sofas and chairs. their conversation appearing lighter but often containing sharper edges. You join a group near the windows. Susan is mid-story about her recent trip to Europe, describing hotels and restaurants everyone has already visited. You nod politely, make appropriate noises of interest, wait for your turn to contribute something equally unremarkable. When you mention your summer home, Patricia raises an eyebrow slightly, the smallest gesture that communicates volumes. Showing off, the eyebrow says. You pretend not to notice. The undercurrents at these parties are constant and exhausting. Who wore what and whether it was appropriate, who arrived with whom and what that might signify, who drank too much, who left early, who said something that will be analysed and dissected over lunch for the next week. Every interaction is observed, interpreted, filed away for future use. Douglas approaches, whiskey in hand, jovial in that slightly forced way he has perfected. He mentions a mutual acquaintance who has apparently fallen on hard times, lost money in a bad investment, might have to sell their vacation property. He delivers this news with concern in his voice, but satisfaction in his eyes. There but for the grace of God, his expression says. But really he means, I am smarter than that. I would never fail like that. You listen, make sympathetic sounds, secretly calculate whether this represents opportunity or warning. If they are selling, perhaps the property could be acquired at a discount, or perhaps their failure is contagious, tied to investments you also hold. You make a mental note to speak with your financial advisor. The evening continues its familiar rhythm. Appetizers circulate on silver trays. Drinks are refreshed. Conversations rotate. People moving from group to group in a carefully choreographed dance everyone knows by heart. You speak with people you have known for decades, and the conversation remains superficial, pleasant, utterly void of genuine substance. Someone mentions someone else who is not present, and immediately the tone shifts. This is what everyone has been waiting for. The gossip. The Hendersons are having marital problems, apparently. Someone's son was asked to leave his prestigious school. Someone's daughter is dating someone unsuitable. The information flows quickly, delivered in hushed voices with false concern masking genuine delight. You contribute your own observations, carefully measured, never too harsh but never too generous. The game requires participation. Silence would be noticed, interpreted as either ignorance or disloyalty. You must engage in the gossip to remain part of the group, even as you know they gossip about you the moment you leave the room. By the time you depart hours later, you have learned nothing new about anyone. You have deepened no relationships, gained no genuine insights, experienced no real connection. You have simply performed your role in the social machine that defines your world, showing up and smiling and pretending that this gathering of the same people, discussing the same topics, somehow constitutes a social life. Your chauffeur drives you home through dark streets. You lean your head against the window, tired in a way that has nothing to do with physical exertion. Tomorrow there will be another party, another gathering, another opportunity to see the same people and have the same conversations. This is your social life. This is your community. These people who know everything about your circumstances and nothing about your soul. For all the wealth, for all the comfort, for all the privilege, there is loneliness. The mansion is big. The staff is efficient but distant. Your friends are more like competitors, and sometimes in the quiet moments you wonder what it would be like to live a different life. Late at night, after the staff has gone home and your spouse has retreated to their wing of the house, you wander the empty rooms. Your footsteps echo on marble floors. The chandeliers cast long shadows. Everything is perfect, beautiful, expensive, and utterly silent. The silence has weight here, presses against you like something physical. You pour yourself a drink in the library, Settle into a leather chair that cost more than a car. The bookshelves around you are filled with volumes you inherited but have never read. First editions and rare manuscripts that exist more as investments than literature. You pull one down occasionally, run your fingers over the leather binding open to random pages. The words feel distant, written for someone else, in a language you understand intellectually but not emotionally. Outside the windows, the grounds stretch into darkness. Security lights illuminate portions of the gardens, creating pools of brightness in the black. Somewhere out there, the swimming pool glows turquoise and empty. The tennis court sits unused. The guest cottage remains perpetually ready for visitors who rarely come. All this space, all this property, and most of it exists in a state of permanent waiting. You think about your children, away at boarding school, living lives you barely understand. They call dutifully on Sundays, conversations that follow a script. How are classes? Fine. Are you making friends? Yes. Do you need anything? No. The distance between you is not just physical. You provided them with every advantage, every opportunity, but somehow missed providing whatever creates actual closeness. Your spouse is a stranger in many ways, despite decades of marriage. You share a home, a name, a social position. You attend events together, present a united front, fulfill your roles as a couple, but intimacy, real intimacy, has long since evaporated if it ever existed at all. You live parallel lives that intersect only at dinner parties and family obligations. Your friends, if they can be called that, are people who would likely abandon you if your fortune disappeared. The relationships are transactional, built on shared status rather than genuine affection. You know this. Everyone knows this. It is understood, accepted, the price of living at this level. Trust is a luxury you cannot afford because everyone has something to gain or lose based on their proximity to you. The loneliness is not the dramatic kind, not the sobbing into pillows devastation of sudden loss. It is quieter, more pervasive. It is waking up in a beautiful room and feeling nothing. It is having everything you could want and wanting something you cannot name. It is being surrounded by people whose job is to serve you and realizing that being served is not the same as being known. Sometimes you fantasize about disappearing, not dying, just vanishing into a different life. A small apartment in a city where nobody knows your name. A simple job. Friends chosen for compatibility rather than social standing. The fantasy is vague, romanticized, probably unlivable. You've been wealthy too long to know how to be anything else. But still you think about it, especially on nights like this when the mansion feels less like a home and more like a beautiful prison. You know you are fortunate. You remind yourself constantly. There are people struggling with real problems, poverty, illness, dangers you cannot imagine. Your loneliness is privileged, cushioned by comfort, surrounded by luxury. Complaining about it feels obscene. So you do not complain. You smile. You maintain appearances. You pretend the loneliness does not exist, but it does exist. In the quiet moments, in the empty rooms, in the realization that wealth can buy almost anything except genuine connection, real understanding, the sense that someone knows you completely and loves you anyway. You finish your drink, turn off the library lights, make your way upstairs. The bedroom is large and empty. The bed, even with its expensive linens, feels cold. Tomorrow will bring more obligations, more performances, more opportunities to be seen without being known. You slide beneath the covers, close your eyes, and try not to think about the fact that you could disappear tomorrow and the mansion would continue functioning exactly as it always has. The staff would arrive, the grounds would be maintained, the systems would run. Everything would proceed smoothly without you, because you're not essential to this machine. You're just its current inhabitant, temporary custodian of wealth that existed before you and will continue after you're gone. This is the loneliness behind the luxury, not dramatic, not visible, just a quiet emptiness that no amount of money can fill. There are rules in your world, unspoken rules, rules about how to dress, how to speak, how to behave. New money is loud, flashy, desperate to be noticed. Old money is quiet, refined, secure in its own power. The rules are never written down, never explicitly taught, yet everyone at your level knows them instinctively, or learns them through painful trial and error. You absorbed them growing up, watching your parents, observing other families, internalizing codes of conduct that separate the established wealthy from the newly rich. First rule, never discuss money directly. You can discuss investments, property values, market conditions, but never actual amounts, never net worth, never salaries. The exception is charity donations, which can be mentioned but only in the context of giving, never boasting. To ask someone what they paid for something is gauche. To volunteer what you paid is worse. The skill lies in communicating wealth without stating it. We spent the summer in Europe becomes a signal of resources without crude specificity. The vineyard we visited suggests knowledge and access without boastful detail. Everything is implied, suggested, understood by those who understand these things. Second rule, dress well but never flashily. Your clothes should be expensive but understated, labels hidden, quality evident only to those who know. New money wears logos, old money wears tailoring. Your watch should be valuable but not ostentatious. Your jewelry should be real but restrained. The goal is to look wealthy without trying, to appear as if dressing well is so natural you hardly think about it. You learned this watching your mother, who could wear a simple dress and pearls and somehow look more elegant than women dripping in obvious diamonds. It is about confidence, about knowing you do not need to prove anything. Your clothes whisper rather than shout. Your accessories suggest rather than announce. Third rule, be gracious to staff but maintain distance. You thank them, you treat them with respect, but you do not become friends. You know their names but not their lives. You are kind but not familiar. The relationship must remain professional, clearly defined, comfortable for everyone precisely because the boundaries are understood. This rule caused you confusion as a child. You wanted to play with the housekeeper's daughter when she visited, but your mother gently redirected you. We do not socialize with staff families, she explained, and though it seemed cruel then, you understand now. The boundaries protect everyone, prevent uncomfortable situations, maintain order. Fourth rule, old money does not compete openly. You do not brag, you do not compare, you do not try to outdo each other obviously. Instead, competition happens through subtle signals, through understated mentions, through what is implied rather than stated. My son was accepted to several schools becomes a way of saying Harvard without saying Harvard. The vineyard we visited in France communicates wealth without vulgar specificity. The competition is constant but invisible. Whose children attend better schools, whose art collection is more impressive, whose summer home is in the most exclusive location. But it is all communicated through hints and suggestions, never direct comparisons. Keeping score without appearing to keep score is an art form you have mastered over decades. Fifth rule, nouveau riche are tolerated but never fully accepted. New money can join the country club, attend the galas, buy houses in the right neighbourhoods. But there is always a distinction, invisible but permanent. They laugh too loud. They mention prices. They're eager in ways that signal insecurity. You're polite to them, include them in events, but everyone understands they are not quite us. You feel guilty about this sometimes. These are good people, often more accomplished than you, who built their wealth through actual achievement rather than inheritance. But the rules are the rules. They can be rich, but they cannot be old money until their grandchildren inherit. That is simply how it works. Sixth rule: eccentricity is acceptable only if you are rich enough. Minor wealth requires conformity. Serious wealth allows for quirks. If you are merely well off, you must follow all the rules carefully. If you're extraordinarily wealthy, you can violate some rules because your status is unassailable. The Vanderbilts can be eccentric. You cannot. This frustrates you occasionally. You would like to dress more casually, to skip some obligations, to live with less formality. But your wealth, while substantial, is not fuck you money as your father crudely called it once. You are rich enough to be comfortable, but not rich enough to be entirely free. You must maintain appearances. Seventh rule: education matters more than achievement. Where you went to school is more important than what you do for a living, particularly because many people at your level do not work in any traditional sense. You manage family wealth, you serve on boards, you pursue gentleman hobbies. But if you attended the right schools, connected with the right families, you are one of us regardless of occupation. You have met brilliant people from state schools who will never be fully accepted in your circles, and mediocrities from Ivy League institutions who are welcomed everywhere. It is unfair, arbitrary, built on systems that perpetuate privilege. You know this. You benefit from this. You do nothing to change this. Eighth rule: never appear to try too hard. Everything should seem effortless. Your home should be beautiful but not obviously decorated recently. Your parties should be elegant but casual, as if you threw them together without much thought, even though you agonized over every detail. Your children should excel but not seem stressed. Success should appear natural, inevitable, the expected outcome of good breeding rather than desperate striving. The effortlessness is, of course, an illusion requiring enormous effort to maintain. You work hard at appearing not to work hard. You practice at seeming naturally talented. You rehearse spontaneity. The performance is constant and exhausting, but admitting that would violate the rule itself. Ninth rule: divorce happens quietly. Marriages end, but not dramatically. There are lawyers, negotiations, discreet separations, but there are no public feuds, no tabloid revelations, no scenes. Everything is handled privately, announced matter-of-factly, discussed minimally. The family's dignity is preserved even as the family itself dissolves. You have watched this happen among your peers. Marriages that crumble are dismantled with the same care as successful business transactions. Everything is negotiated, documented, settled without scandal. The couple appears together at events until they do not, and then everyone simply understands without explanation being necessary. 10th rule: money is old only if it has survived 3 generations. Your grandfather made it. Your father maintained it. You inherited it. That makes it old money. Anything newer is still establishing itself, still proving its durability, still potentially temporary. 3 generations is the minimum for establishment, for genuine acceptance into the upper tier. This arbitrary timeline amuses you sometimes. Someone whose grandfather struck it rich in 1910 is old money. Someone whose grandfather struck it rich in 1940 is still new, 20 years separating dynasties from arrivals. But everyone observes the distinction carefully. These rules are enforced not through punishment, but through exclusion. Violate them, and you are still wealthy, but you're no longer truly part of the group. Invitations slow. Memberships are quietly not renewed. You remain rich, but become isolated from the networks and connections that define your social class. You follow these rules without thinking now. They are so ingrained they feel like instinct. When you spot someone violating them, new money or outsiders trying to fit in, you feel a mixture of pity and disdain. They do not understand. They cannot understand. These rules cannot be learned from books or classes. They can only be absorbed through generations of immersion in this world. This is old money. Not just wealth, but a code of conduct, a way of being, a set of unspoken understandings that separate you from everyone else, including those who have just as much money but do not yet know how to carry it properly. You give to charity, not because the tax write-offs, though those help, but because it eases something. A quiet guilt, maybe, about having so much when others have so little. The checks are generous, the galas are glamorous, but the problems never really go away. Your family's foundation has existed for decades, established by your grandfather as much for legacy as for altruism. It gives away hundreds of thousands annually, maybe millions, to causes deemed worthy by a board you chair but rarely think about. Education, healthcare, arts, the environment. Safe choices, respected causes, nothing controversial that might generate criticism or complicate your social standing. You attend the board meetings quarterly, sit through presentations about impact metrics and grant applications, programs serving populations you have never met, addressing problems you have never personally experienced. The people who run these organizations are grateful, almost painfully so, thanking you profusely for funding that, while generous by their standards, represents a tiny fraction of your wealth. The gratitude makes you uncomfortable. You have done nothing really, written checks, attended events, allowed your name to be used. The actual work, the difficult daily labour of helping people, is done by others. Yet you receive the credit, the recognition, the warm feeling of being a philanthropist. Sometimes you tour the programs you fund, a school in a low-income neighbourhood, a clinic providing healthcare to the uninsured, a job training program for the formerly incarcerated. You shake hands, smile for photographs, listen to success stories carefully curated for your visit. Everyone is on their best behaviour, showing you the most inspiring examples, hiding the harder truths about how difficult the work really is, how inadequate the funding remains despite your contributions. The children at the school are scrubbed clean, wearing their best clothes, coached to say thank you. They perform for you, recite lessons, demonstrate skills. You tell them to work hard, to take advantage of opportunities, to believe in themselves. The words feel hollow even as you speak them. What do you know about working hard? What obstacles have you overcome? You're delivering motivational speeches from a position so privileged you might as well be speaking a foreign language. You leave these visits feeling strange, moved, certainly. The problems are real, the needs overwhelming, but also uncomfortable, aware that you will return to your mansion while the people you met return to circumstances you can barely comprehend. The contrast is jarring. You could write a check right now that would transform their program entirely, and it would barely register in your overall wealth. Yet you do not. Nobody does. The foundation operates within budgets, guidelines, strategic priorities that prevent any single transformative gift. The guilt is manageable most of the time. You have rationalized it thoroughly. You did not create the inequality. You inherited your wealth. You did not steal it. You're generous by any reasonable standard. Your charitable giving exceeds what most wealthy families contribute. You employ people, stimulate the economy, maintain historic properties. Your existence generates benefits beyond just direct charity. But late at night, the rationalizations feel thin. You think about the clinic you visited, how they need funding for equipment that costs less than your wine cellar, the school that struggles to afford basic supplies while you own multiple homes you rarely visit, the programs that could expand, could serve more people, if only money were not the limiting factor. You increase your giving incrementally. Add another $50,000 to the foundation's budget. Sponsor another table at another gala. write another check when asked. But it never feels like enough, and simultaneously it always feels like too much is being asked of you. The guilt and resentment exist together, uncomfortably paired. The wealthy friends you discuss this with share the same complicated feelings. Everyone gives. Everyone feels it is not enough. Everyone also feels vaguely annoyed at the constant requests, the expectation that because you have money, you should solve problems that governments and societies have failed to address. You're not obligated to fix everything you tell each other. You did not break the world. But you did inherit a world that is broken, and your comfort is built partially on that brokenness, on systems that concentrate wealth, on advantages compounded over generations, on opportunities available only to people born into circumstances like yours. Your grandfather probably exploited workers, crushed competitors, cut corners. The fortune was not built cleanly. It was built the way fortunes are built, through advantage leveraged and power consolidated. The philanthropy helps. It does genuine good. The programs you fund change lives, create opportunities, address real needs. The school educates children who might otherwise fall through cracks. The clinic provides care to people who would otherwise suffer. The job training gives people second chances. This matters. This is real. This is better than doing nothing. But it also functions as a pressure valve, releasing just enough guilt to remain bearable while never actually threatening the systems that created the inequality in the first place. You give away enough to feel moral, but not enough to affect your lifestyle. You fund programs that help individuals but never support movements that might change structures. Your philanthropy is radical enough to ease your conscience, but conservative enough to preserve your position. And the problems persist. For every child you help educate, 100 more slip through. For every patient the clinic treats, 1,000 more go without care. Your charity is a bucket of water against a house fire. Helpful, certainly. Necessary, absolutely. But ultimately insufficient. You will continue giving. You will continue attending galas, writing checks, serving on boards. You will continue feeling like you are doing good while simultaneously knowing it is not enough. And you will continue living in your mansion, sleeping in your expensive bed, maintaining your comfortable life, because giving away enough money to truly change things would require giving away so much that you would no longer be you. This is philanthropy in your world. Genuine but insufficient. Generous but self-interested. Helpful but ultimately preserving the very systems it claims to address. And the guilt never entirely goes away. It just becomes another luxury you can afford to carry. Your wealth is not just money. It is a legacy, a family name, a history. You didn't build this empire, you inherited it. And with it comes the pressure to maintain it, to preserve it, to pass it on to the next generation just as pristine as it was given to you. The weight of this responsibility settles on you early, though you do not fully understand it until you are older. As a child, you knew you were different, wealthier than classmates, part of something larger than yourself. But the true burden reveals itself gradually, as you realize that your life is not entirely your own, that you are a steward, rather than an owner, a temporary custodian of wealth that existed before you, and must continue after you're gone. Your grandfather built the foundation. He made the money, established the businesses, purchased the properties, created the systems that generate wealth passively, continuously, regardless of effort. He was ruthless, probably. Stories about him are carefully edited, celebrating his business acumen while glossing over whatever methods he employed. You suspect there were casualties, workers underpaid, competitors crushed, corners cut. But that was then. Now the wealth is established, legitimate, respectable. He died when you were young, but his presence looms over everything. His portrait hangs in the library, stern and commanding, eyes following you around the room. His name is on buildings, on plaques, in history books. He created something that outlasted him, and now you are responsible for ensuring it outlasts you too. Your father maintained it. He did not expand the fortune dramatically, but he preserved it, invested wisely, weathered economic storms, ensured that everything passed to you intact. He impressed upon you constantly the importance of responsibility, of not being the generation that squandered everything, of understanding that you are merely a link in a chain stretching backward and forward through time. You remember conversations with him, lectures really, about duty and obligation. "We did not build this for ourselves," he would say. "We built it for the future, for your children, for their children. Our job is to be good stewards, to maintain what was entrusted to us, to pass it forward intact." He made it sound noble, this endless preservation. But even as a child you wondered, why? What is the point of accumulating wealth that can never be enjoyed, only maintained? Why are we servants to money rather than the other way around? You never asked these questions aloud. The answers were predetermined anyway. Now it is your turn. You manage the family office, the entity that oversees investments, properties, trusts, all the complex financial structures that shield and grow the wealth. You have advisors, accountants, lawyers, an entire team dedicated to preservation and growth. Your job is not to work in any traditional sense, but to make decisions, to approve strategies, to ensure that nothing catastrophic happens on your watch. The pressure is constant but invisible. You must preserve the principal while living off returns. You must maintain properties that cost fortunes to run. You must fund the lifestyle expected of your family while ensuring enough remains for the next generation. You must balance current enjoyment with future responsibility, never spending so much that you endanger the legacy, but never being so miserly that you fail to maintain appearances. Every major decision involves consulting advisors, running projections, ensuring that the choice serves the long-term preservation of wealth. Can you buy another property? Only if it appreciates. Can you support a charity more generously? Only within foundation guidelines. Can you help a family member in need? Only if it does not set precedent. Your children will inherit everything. They are being prepared, though they do not fully understand yet. They attend the right schools, join the right organizations, make the right connections. They will eventually sit in your chair, meet with your advisors, face the same pressures you face, and their children after them, and on, a dynasty that must not fail. You watch them during holidays, these children who will inherit everything, and wonder what they think about their future. Do they feel the weight yet? Do they understand that their lives are not entirely their own? Or are they still innocent, still believing they can choose their own paths, still unaware that the legacy chooses for them? Sometimes you fantasize about ending it, giving it all away, liquidating everything, distributing the wealth, freeing yourself and your children from the burden of legacy. You could live comfortably on a tiny fraction of what you own. Your children could find their own paths without the weight of expectation. The money could do tremendous good if directed towards serious need rather than preservation of privilege. The fantasy is detailed, elaborate. You imagine the phone calls to advisors, their shock and resistance. You imagine the family meetings, the arguments, the accusations of betrayal. You imagine the freedom afterward, the lightness of living without the constant pressure to preserve, maintain, protect. But you do not. You cannot. The betrayal would be unthinkable. Your grandfather's ghost would haunt you. Your father's memory would curse you. The family name, which carries weight and respect earned over generations, would be diminished, destroyed by your failure to maintain what was entrusted to you. And honestly, you lack the courage. Dismantling the legacy would require admitting it was never worth the sacrifice, that the generations of effort, of preservation, of prioritizing wealth over happiness were mistakes. That your grandfather's ruthlessness, your father's duty, your own obedience were all in service of something that did not actually matter. So you continue, you preserve, you manage, you make incremental decisions that keep everything intact, growing slowly, safely invested, protected by layers of legal and financial structures. You attend meetings with advisors who speak in terms of basis points and asset allocation. You approve strategies you barely understand, trusting experts who have devoted their careers to preserving wealth for families like yours. The irony is not lost on you. You have everything, yet you own nothing. The wealth controls you more than you control it. Your life is shaped by the need to maintain it, to protect it, to pass it on. You're wealthy but not free, privileged but imprisoned by expectation. Your name is on buildings, on plaques, in society pages. The family legacy is secure, respected, admired. You have fulfilled your responsibility. You have maintained what was given to you. You will pass it to your children intact, perhaps even enhanced. But late at night, alone in your mansion, surrounded by inherited furniture and inherited art and inherited expectations, you wonder what your life would have been if you had been born without the legacy, without the name, without the burden of preserving something you never asked to receive. You will never know. The legacy is yours whether you want it or not. You're bound to it, defined by it, unable to separate yourself from it without destroying everything your family built. This is your inheritance, not just money, not just privilege, but obligation, responsibility, the eternal pressure to maintain, preserve, protect. This is what it means to be filthy rich in 1970s America. Not freedom, not joy, not ease, but the weight of legacy, the burden of preservation, the knowledge that you are merely a link in a chain you did not forge and cannot break. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, you realize that despite all your wealth, despite all your advantages, you are trapped just like everyone else, just in a much larger, much more expensive prison, a prison with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, a prison with servants and security, a prison that everyone outside envies and nobody inside can escape. This is your life. This is your legacy, and you will pass it forward, because that is what you do, what you have always done, what you will always do, until someone braver or more desperate than you finally breaks the chain. So tonight, as you settle deeper into your blankets, the soft kind, not the scratchy ones celebrities used to pretend were luxury, let's take a breath and look back at the world you just walked through. You woke up in a mansion too large to feel like home. You ate breakfast at a table that could seat 20 but held only you. You moved through rooms filled with art you inherited but never chose, wore clothes that cost fortunes but brought no joy, attended parties where everyone smiled and no one connected. For all the wealth, for all the privilege, for all the excess, you saw something else underneath. Loneliness in enormous bedrooms, pressure to preserve legacies you never built, the weight of expectations so heavy they crush spontaneity, creativity, the simple freedom to choose your own path. The filthy rich in 1970s. America had everything money could buy and discovered, quietly, privately, that it was not enough. But there was dignity there too. People maintaining traditions, preserving beauty, supporting causes, trying in their imperfect way to use their advantages for something beyond themselves. They were flawed, certainly, trapped by their own privilege, but they were also human, carrying the same loneliness and longing we all carry, just wrapped in silk and diamonds, instead of cotton and denim. So tonight, maybe carry this forward. that wealth does not equal happiness, that comfort does not equal connection, that having everything is not the same as having enough. And maybe, in your own life,